The whole meeting for February 24th to order at 1 p.m. Jody.
Please note, council meetings are streamed live and recorded on YouTube. Attendees acknowledge that in accordance with Section 17.2 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, names, addresses, and other details provided when speaking at a council meeting will be publicly shared. Should you have any questions related to the collection or disclosure of personal information, please contact the Legislative and Advisory Services Division for the Town of High River by sending an email to foip@highriver.ca.
Adoption of the agenda. Thanks, Jody. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Barton that the Committee of the Whole adopt the agenda for the Committee of the Whole meeting February 24th as presented.
You have my motion?
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Previous minutes. Ask for a motion from Councillor Jones that Committee of the Whole adopt the minutes from the February 10th Committee of the Whole meeting as presented.
I'll give you that motion, Mayor Snodgrass.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Aquatic expansion update. Kaylee.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This afternoon I'm here for an update on our construction progress of the aquatics expansion. To date, we'll just go quickly over the change orders. To date, we are up to 23 change orders. It seems like a large number, but thankfully a lot of our change orders, which has been kind of, in my opinion, the way we handle change orders is they're itemized very smallly. So they're very, very specific items. So we don't have a whole list of items on one change order, one ginormous change order. We've got lots of small change orders. To date, all of them have been on par for what we would see for any small changes on a project as you go through construction, for any of the unknowns that pop up while you're doing construction. So right now that value sits at a total of $217,000 and change. With regards to the construction progress itself, we are moving along. We have had the one delay that has been a result of the groundwater changes that were found during excavation. Progress of the project, recently, obviously, we've had some cold weather that has thankfully lifted. It's a little warm, but it's lifted, and now we're able to start moving along. So you'll notice that steel has been being delivered on a regular basis, and now today we would have seen steel actually starting to be lifted into place. As you may recall, in my last update, we had discovered that our foundation grid line was a little off in how it was constructed versus how our drawings that we had that we knew how it was constructed. So that gave us a little bit of a delay on getting the steel base plates in place. However, during the cold, they were able to modify those and get them going so that when we finally had the weather lift and the equipment that lifts our steel was able to run, that's where we're at today. So we're finally lifting it into place. There will be some minor intermittent disruptions with noise with regards to that work, just as they're either drilling or knocking some of the columns into place onto the plates, but the noise itself should be intermittent. Where we'll start to see some of the noise disruptions change is when we start getting into that second wall demolition that takes place, the second half of the existing wall. That will be the next piece that will come into play. So once we get all the steel stood up in this southern portion of the project, around March 6th is where we anticipate that we'll start to see some of that demo of this second portion of that existing wall, and we'll start to have some more noise disruptions, more continuous noise disruptions. One other piece that comes also coming forward for some disruption is the air handling unit. Our temporary air handling unit will have to have some changes done to it, some of the routing through the small arena. Right now we have scaffolding in place. It is off the ice, so it's not having any impact to actual user groups on the ice. When that work actually proceeds, we're doing that work in conjunction with a few other things that require some disruption to the pool. So we're trying to mitigate multiple closures into just a singular closure and having all that work done at the same time. So we will see that coming forward, so they'll have a minor disruption to the small arena and a disruption to the pool as well. I don't have any exact dates yet. Right now we're still working through the schedule, mainly to see how well the steel is going into place and that we're not running into any further unknowns with regards to the steel erection. that concludes my update for construction purposes. Was there any questions on the construction?
Thanks, Kaylee. Any questions from council? We had a big talk about this at the last meeting, so there's not much change, so thanks very much.
No problem.
Thanks, Kaylee. CCMC agreement. Jody?
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. The report within your agenda package speaks to the Charles Clark Medical Center, which the town did acquire at the end of 2023. At the time, all of the tenant spaces were leased. However, back in August, the tenant that leases Unit 202 and 203, which are the upstairs former community studio spaces, terminated their agreement. We agreed on a 6-month notice as there was no termination included in their agreement, and 6 months is what was considered in other CCMC agreements, so we figured that was fair.
Sorry.
You owe donuts or coffee or both, I don't know.
That's fine.
So we did put out an expression of interest in 2024 in the hopes of securing a new tenant or new tenants for those spaces. However, we didn't receive any responses. With that, we did meet with our realtor that we have a letter of engagement with to discuss our options. However, when they shared their, what is it called? Commercial Exclusive Landlord Representation Agreement, it has their fees at 5% of whatever they secure. So if they were to secure a particular lease rate for 5 or 10 years, we end up paying the 5% on the whole. Based on that, if we were to have a lower rate for a 5-year lease, the commissions would be around $20,000. However, if we had a higher lease at a 10-year rate, we're looking at potentially up to $75,000. So wanted to bring Committee of the Whole up to date as to what that could potentially look like going forward. Now, the commissions are only paid once the lease is secured, and they either come out of the deposit to hold that agreement or the initial revenues related to that lease. So it's not something that we end up paying outright, but it is taken off of any revenues that we receive or would be receiving for that lease. We are considering putting another expression of interest out, but we did want to come back to council and consider the options. The only restriction that we had in that initial expression of interest was to keep with the current services that are offered at CCMC to be health and wellness focused. So not sure if Committee of the Whole has any thoughts on whether or not we want to open that up to a broader tenant perspective group, or what the long-term vision is for the Charles Clark Medical Center. With that, wanting feedback or comments based on the long-term vision for CCMC.
Thanks, Jody. Question on the exclusive part of it and just limiting it to one realtor in town. Like, I like the agreement. I don't mind the commissions. They get paid for what they do. It's just the exclusive part of it. Are we limiting ourselves, or is that something that we absolutely have to do?
So we have posted an RFP. I think it was 2022 now that had that realtor held on the letter of engagement. So at that time, we did have responses from, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 local realtors that responded to that, and that's how we ended up with the current realtor that we use.
Okay.
That agreement is up, I think, it might be this summer where that letter of engagement expires, where then we can consider either extending that agreement or going through that full RFP process again. So,
Okay, so, but for now, we're with the one
Yes.
realtor that went through the process
Yeah.
a couple of years ago. Okay, thank you. As far as the use of it, absolutely healthcare is number one, but I know there also has been interest from one of the schools as well, to use that space when she was looking to expand, but they might have already got that done. It's the little one across from Spitzy. I know she was interested in it before, but they might have all the room since they built the new one now. So, but education is something that I think could fit in there. I don't think we want to blow it wide open as to a random rental. I don't think we're there yet, or that desperate. So that's my thoughts. Councillor Nychuk.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. My question or train of thought is more towards the agreement of commission payments to the realtor or realtors that may be involved. We're front-loading this, right? So a lease gets signed, they get paid on the 5-year or the 10-year. So they get paid up front. If the leasee happens to abandon in year 3, year 5, year 7 of a 10-year, whatever it might be, we've already paid the realtor for that full term. Are we going to construct something in the agreement that might be a fail-safe against that? Because I'm not into paying people full boat up front and then the agreement lapsing in some way, shape, or form. And then us paying the realtor again for the next tenant that comes in and paying them front-loaded. So we're wondering if we gave any thought to that, if we can construct something in agreements around that.
I'm actually very glad that you asked that question, because in meeting with the realtors, we did learn that commercial is different than any other type of agreements you would typically enter into. And having a 6-month termination clause is actually quite forgiving as a landlord. So they did say that they could help us draft termination clauses that either were very strong, that if they were to leave early, they do have to pay a penalty or some sort of fee to get out of that agreement in advance of the original term. So we haven't looked into that any further yet, but it is something that we did discuss with the realtor when they came in. So I would like to see that tightened up. And again, the agreements that we inherited from the previous owner, I'm not sure how those ones were drafted for the termination and the various clauses that are in those agreements. So over time, we will probably review those, tighten up, and make them more appropriate for the town as the landlord.
All right, thanks. Yeah, either on the tenant side or on the agreement with the realtors. I don't care where it is. I just don't want us to pay money that upfront that we might not be receiving the full service for in the end. So whether it's in the agreement side with the realtor or with the tenant, we need some kind of a safety mechanism there to protect us. So thank you.
Councillor Kinghorn.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. I just want to highlight number 4. We don't have a need for any of this space, or we're not leasing anywhere else right now, are we? I don't know why 4 is on here. Utilize the vacant units to accommodate town services based on need. Was that just
There has been some interest raised, but it does come back to, I don't know, I will equate it to my own home. If I have more space, I will fill it with more junk. So not to say that that's the expression that has come forward, but if it was something that council wanted us to look at, we could definitely have a discussion at the leadership team, see if there is a valid use or need for additional space such as that.
Okay, I just wondered why, because I don't see us paying somebody else rent when we've got space over there. It's not being rented. Maybe Chris can speak a little more to it, but I know what you mean. Thanks.
Not currently. We're not renting anywhere else that to another landlord that we can move into there. There has been some desire for stated from the fire department and emergency services to expand the emergency operations center into that area again. But we have just reestablished that at the fire hall. So I've asked them to go back and rethink that first and foremost. And our priority is to see this as a commercial lease instead of not generating any revenue for the town, since we had acquired the property and bought out the previous owners as well.
Councillor Walsh?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At one point, there was some interest from a college, alternative health college, and that has not gone anywhere. Macamee?
I haven't heard or received anything or a request for that, and I don't think.
Yeah, remember that? No, I don't know what they're doing. I talked to them, it's that mistake. I could bring it up, Brenda, but no. It's very obvious that they are looking for free space.
Ah, thank you.
Especially when you get a whole multi-million dollars worth of provincial grants for your school, and then you want to come here and get free space. No, not going to happen. So, thanks. No further questions. We'll open it up to Q&A. Wide open. Council to Chris, administration, if there's anything. I see none. Oh, I do hear one, though.
This one is actually just, is Riley here? Riley. So just this past weekend, just with all the melting, I noticed a couple different things that popped up, and I had a resident contact me today about some water main breaks that we've had. So just I was wondering if you can give us the status on some of those, like specifically, I guess there's a water main break over in over by kind of our sewage lift station in that area. In the back alley, that's all I can send you the note anyways on it. And they were just concerned about it because it was all frozen, now it's thawed or whatever, so that was one. The other piece that I happened to, on Saturday afternoon, I walked downtown to drop some stuff at Salvation Army, and the furniture store was flooding again. And then I guess what kind of made me kind of pique my interest is I watched the water flow from the furniture station or furniture store all the way down to Salvation Army, and the water on our property, basically, which is a railroad, drains onto somebody else's property to go into a storm sewer. And I don't know if that is allowed. I think we're not allowed to drain. That's just my understanding.
One, we'd have to take a look at the property records to see if we have a right-of-way and if that catch basin leads into our overall storm system. Yeah, we had regraded that back swale to grade it towards Third, but those properties are lower than the CPR right-of-way, and that's the struggle that we're facing. And Riley can speak to more detail on that one as well, because he was working closely with staff on that.
Okay.
So if you could send me the main breaks, I only know the one, and I know it is repaired, and the roads crew was out quite a bit trying to clean up all the ice before it got warm here. So I would assume they're back out, but I can definitely double check that. With regards to the CP right away, I think we've been in there and graded it, I think, to the best we can. There's issues with the door in terms of it was never supposed to be there. It was installed without permits originally. And then the slab impacts, the slab they put on our property impacts how we can grade it. And then you have all the roof drainage coming to the back as well, and then the back doesn't drain properly, which just compounds the issue. So at this point, I don't know if there's really much we can do, short of installing storm sewer.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No further questions. Meeting adjourned, 1:21.